Coming up, we got a musical genius who was in the room for some of the biggest chapters in rock and roll history. It was Pink Floyd, and with the Beatles on several of their masterworks. Doesn't get much bigger than that. But you know what? This prodigy wrote a mind-blowing chapter of his own in rock history. Masterminding an unprecedented rock experiment, he not only gave us some of the most thought-provoking albums of the 70s and the 80s, but also one of the era's most iconic tracks. It's a song that has provoked a lot of speculation about its meaning. Is it about Big Brother? Is it about a dystopian future? Is it about gambling? Maybe just a simple breakup song. We're going to try to solve it next with him. Plus, we're going to get the story of the copycat song that's been called nothing more than a lazy ripoff of this epic track. Stories coming up straight from the genius himself, next on Professor of Rock. Hey music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. You know, if you remember Shrinky Dinks and Color Forms from your favorite movies and TV shows back in the 70s and 80s, you're going to love this channel of deep musical nostalgia. Make sure to subscribe below right now. The big red button, click the bell. I know that you'll love this channel or you'll find something on here you like. Also, check us out on Patreon. I know I say that a lot, but that really does help us to keep it a daily channel and keep the interviews flowing to keep this history going. So it's time for another edition of Number One in Our Hearts, the show that honors songs that were so unbelievably special, so magnificent, they absolutely should have been number one on the Billboard Hot 100 chart. But for whatever reason, radio play, lack of marketing label support, or just, stupidity, the song came up short. Today, we're giving that much-earned number one spot to one who deserves it very much so, the Alan Parsons Project and their 1982 hit, Eye in the Sky. By the late 60s, a teenage Alan Parsons had already tried his hand as a folk blues acoustic player and as a lead guitarist with a blues band called The Earth. Alan would later describe himself as just another guitar player trying to sound like Eric Clapton. But the London-born musician's career path would take a turn into an entirely new direction in 1967. Just 18 years of age, Parsons landed a job in the tape duplication department at EMI Records. While he was there, he heard the master tape of the Beatles' 1967 opus, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. It was as if lightning had struck. It made him realize, after hearing Sgt. Pepper's, he desperately needed to talk his way into a job at EMI Recording Studios on Abbey Road. Ultimately, the road to Abbey Road proved to be more important than trying to push through as a struggling musician. Parsons' determination paid off when he landed a job at the iconic studio that very same year. Working as an assistant recording engineer and under producer George Martin's guidance, Parsons was present for the Beatles' final two historic albums, Abbey Road and Let It Be.
Here comes the sun, words of wisdom, let it be.
Notably, Alan Parsons was also on site for the Fab Four's final rooftop concert. He was there to check mics and mic lines and make sure nothing broke down. Actually, if you look closely, you can catch him in Peter Jackson's 2021 documentary, The Beatles Get Back. Said Parsons of this early experience at Abbey Road, "I was just an assistant who made tea and pushed buttons, but I did get to watch how George Martin worked." That was the key. These foundational experiences would serve him well throughout his career for sure. After the Beatles went their separate ways, Parsons continued as an engineer at Abbey Road, working with McCartney on his albums Wildlife and Red Rose Speedway. And he would also anchor his reputation as an industry heavyweight after engineering Pink Floyd's 1973 landmark album, The Dark Side of the Moon. Parsons' work with Pink Floyd gave him the confidence to step into the role of producer, taking the helm for Pilot and Al Stewart just a few months later. Then in 1975, Parsons teamed up with Eric Woolfson. He established the Alan Parsons Project from there, a collaborative that would be unlike anything the world had ever seen. Woolfson, who had been working as a songwriter and composer, was so impressed with Parsons' contributions to Dark Side of the Moon that he quickly signed on as his manager. Eric convinced Alan Parsons that he could create another concept album in a similar vein. He even had some songs at the ready. Strictly a studio group, the idea for the Alan Parsons project was to release concept albums composed by the duo, but played by session musicians. After Wolfson recorded scratch vocals, each song would then feature a different guest vocalist, and Parsons decided who would sing what song. Said to Alan about it, "I think artists have a problem when they make an album that has the same vocal sound throughout. It's hard for any listener to spend 40 minutes in the company of a single voice. That's why compilation albums do so well. You get variety." End of quote. Unless the vocalist is Freddie Mercury or Robert Plant or Steve Perry. Just saying. For the Alan Parsons project, variety, it was the name of the game. Over the years, a long list of vocalists would contribute. There was Terry Sylvester and Alan Clark of the Hollies. There was Colin Blunstone of the Zombies, Gary Brooker, Procol Harum. Wolfson would eventually sing as well. But as you can imagine, throughout the years, this unconventional approach, it's caused some confusion for fans of the band as well as the music press. Decades later, Alan would say that there were still people who couldn't accept that he wasn't the singer. Complimenting him on his diverse vocal stylings, they'd ask how he managed to sing in so many different voices. For their first album, Alan and Eric created a concept record that was based on the writings of Edgar Allan Poe. It was actually an idea that Wolfson had been toying with for a while. Dubbed Tales of Mystery and Imagination, it was released on June 25th, 1976, after nearly 2 years of work. Got some interviews that you can look at in the past where Alan Parsons talks about this. For Alan Parsons, Tales of Mystery represented everything that was right about the project. He said it took risks. It was experimental. It had some really good songs. It had a good selection of vocalists and musicians. And ultimately, it proved this unique approach could work, this unique approach to recording. A slew of concept records followed throughout the 70s into the 80s. There was I, Robot in 77, Pyramid in 78, Eve in 79, and The Turn of a Friendly Card in 80. Each one certifying either gold or platinum in the US and doing well on the Billboard 200. Collectively, they averaged the number 15 spot, which is kind of amazing for a band that didn't play live and whose primary members rarely appeared on the actual albums. Again, Alan Parsons covers a lot of those in past interviews we've done that you can all link to them below. The Alan Parsons Project reached the pinnacle of their commercial success with their number 6 album, 1982's Eye in the Sky. Eye in the Sky featured 6 different singers across 10 tracks and dropped 3 singles, Psychobabble, Old and Wise, and today's featured song, Eye in the Sky.
But I don't care, it's all psychobabble rap to me. Oh, when I'm old and wise, looking at you, I can read your mind.
This song was so big. On the strength of the title track alone, the record went top 10 around the world. Although the voices of David Patton, Chris Rainbow, Lenny Zakatic, Elmer Gantry, and Colin Blunstone were all featured on the album, the lead vocals for this iconic track, Eye in the Sky, those were sung by none other than Eric Wolfson. I always thought Eric had a really cool voice.
You've taken lots of chances before,
He was also the principal composer and lyricist for the song.
but I ain't gonna give any more. Don't ask me. That's how
According to Parsons, he straight up detested the song when they started working on it. Recounting its origins, he said that Eric brought the song in and they were trying to find a right feel for it. They played all kinds of different tempos, all kinds of different feels to it. Just nothing was working. Alan actually wanted to throw it away, wanted to scrap it. Can you imagine that? But Eric, he wouldn't give up on it. Eventually, they created a version that Alan could stomach. Actually, he kind of liked it. Of course, that's the one that went on to the album and became a huge hit.
it goes, 'cause part of me knows what you're thinking.
Alan has said on multiple occasions that he's never been allowed to forget that he was ready to drop the project's biggest song.
Words you're gonna regret.
Actually, this is kind of the perfect song to go along with our sponsor. Speaking of Eye in the Sky, I want to recognize our sponsor, Zenni Eyewear, the glasses that I always wear. Right now, you can choose from a variety of different frames to fit your needs, from readers to migraine relief glasses. That's right, they can actually help you with migraines. To transition lenses, to blue blocks to protect your eyes from digital blue light, And you can shop by frame size and color and design your own pair. You can get up to 80% off regular retail prices by clicking on our info button right up here to get our POR price.
Don't let the fire rush to your head.
Of course, through the years, multiple theories have surfaced about the meaning of this really eerie song, Eye in the Sky, including having ties to George Orwell's novel 1984, which famously tells of a dystopian future where people are constantly monitored by a totalitarian world government. But on closer inspection, there are no specific ties to the novel in the lyrics, only the premise of being watched. Although the song was never directly linked to Orwell's classic, Parsons did verify the entire album is connected to Big Brother. What Alan said about it, we wanted to base the album on the concept of Big Brother is watching you. There's always a camera watching you. There's always a helicopter in the sky overseeing you. And they can read a line of small print on a newspaper from space. End of quote.
I've heard the accusation before.
Another theory about the song goes back to the band's 1980 release, The Turn of a Friendly Card, which is a concept record about gambling. Reportedly, Wolfson spent a lot of time in casinos and was intrigued by the omnipresent view of casino cameras watching all the time. Could these be the songs Eye in the Sky? You know, with language like turning tables, you've taken lots of chances before, dealing with fools.
Dealing with fools, I can cheat you blind.
But perhaps the most straightforward interpretation is that it's a breakup song. Don't think sorry is easily said. Don't say words you're going to regret.
Think sorry's easily said.
Claiming to know just what his partner is thinking, Eric launches into the chorus, I am the eye in the sky, looking at you, I can read your mind.
I can read your mind.
Relationship surveillance? Yeah, I think we've covered this one before a few times.
Step you take, I'll be watching you.
Maybe Sting got a little inspiration. It did come out a few years before Every Breath You Take, who knows? But of course, connected to Eye in the Sky is the album's opening instrumental, The Glorious Sirius. While Eye in the Sky was primarily Wolfson's doing, Sirius was all Alan Parsons. 1 minute and 50 seconds in length, the instrumental, it just flows flawlessly into Eye in the Sky. Said Parsons about it, I always think of them together, Sirius and Eye in the Sky, as just one piece. So I had the great honor of visiting with Alan Parsons in his home a few years back. While I was there, I asked him about both Eye in the Sky and Sirius. Here's what he said.
The next thing to happen pretty much was Eye in the Sky, and that had the big song, the
number
big title
3
song.
with big hit, and still, I would bet if you flip through the radio at any time today, you'd hear it on some station.
In the sky, looking at you.
The lyrics and the melody and everything comes together perfect. Nothing is forced. As a pop song, it just literally is perfect.
Don't leave false illusion behind.
I was ready to drop it. I didn't like the way it was going in the studio. We couldn't find a feel that worked, and I felt it was too poppy, and I was literally ready to say, I don't think we should do this song. And of course, I was never allowed to forget it. Not only by Eric, but some of the band, some of the band players as well said, "We think this is a hit. We think you're wrong." And I was wrong.
Or to know that I can read your mind.
Once we got the right feel, and once we established the all the backing vocals on the chorus and stuff, it came together nicely. I mean, it was a good record.
How do you feel about that song now, X amount of years later, 35 years later?
I sing it now. I sing it live and enjoy it greatly.
Have you ever heard Jonathan Brooks?
Yes, it was a nice
She's a
version.
great
Yeah.
folk artist.
In the sky, looking at you.
Asia also.
That was more recently, yes.
Yeah.
Disappointed that it didn't do better than it did. 'Cause I
Yeah.
think it was a great version.
I am the eye in the sky, looking at you.
serious, this is a song that the Chicago Bulls.
Oh, I love it. I mean, it was certainly never in my in wildest imagination that it would become a sports theme. It was simply written as an intro to Eye in the Sky, or as a way to start an album. You know, and it needed something fairly majestic to start the record off, and it got kind of linked into Eye in the Sky, or almost almost as an afterthought. In fact, the first demo was in a completely different key. Re-recorded it so that the key was right to go into Eye in the Sky. Who would have thought that it would become this anthemic?
It's almost become more of a sports anthem than even like Don't Stop Believin' or Sweet Caroline. The New Orleans Saints, their run to the Super Bowl. The Nebraska Cornhuskers use it as well. They've used it since 1994.
It's great. The often misconceived fact is that I really haven't got rich through the Sirius being the anthem that it's become, because it's just played in stadiums. When you play a record in a stadium, it can be anybody. It doesn't have to be. It just becomes part of the blanket fees that venues pay to collection agencies, BMI, ASCAP, and so on. But when it goes into a movie, then yes. Then
like Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs.
Who's hungry?
Anchorman 2.
I got a new cologne. It's called Venom. It's pretty much 100% snake venom.
Nissan Altima, didn't they use it as well?
Yes, Nissan did a commercial. Yeah.
Is Nissan now introducing the all-new...
They call it sync licenses when it's used for pictures. Then yes.
Well, they used it for that. I remember seeing it in that Michael Jordan documentary that they did. I think it was Michael Jordan to the Max or whatever it was.
But people think, every time the Bulls walk out and,
right, that you
play
get,
series, that I'm raking money in. It's just simply not true.
Pump Michael Jordan up for those 6 championships. Kind of a calling card. That's pretty cool.
So Eye in the Sky was released in June of 1982, and it was by far the biggest hit for the Alan Parsons Project in America. Went to number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100, also number 3 on the Cashbox chart, went to number 3 on the US AC chart as well. It went to number 11 on the mainstream rock chart. It was a true triple threat. Internationally, Eye in the Sky went to number 22 in Australia, number 16 in France, number 6 in New Zealand, number 3 in Italy, and also went to number 1 in Canada and Spain. So there's one more controversial aspect I need to bring up about this song. Back in 2009, Eye in the Sky had an unexpected country music crossover moment. Portions of the chorus appeared to have been lifted by the group Lady Antebellum in their massive hit, Need You Now.
I'm all alone and I need you now.
The song was actually something of a phenomenon, a power ballad about drunken after-hours longing. It reached number 2 on the Hot 100 and number 1 on the US country chart, the AC chart, and the adult top 40. It also won 3 Grammy Awards in 2011, including Song of the Year. But all of this success came on the back of Eye in the Sky. Fans across the internet immediately recognized the similarities between these songs. Parsons' camp later called it a lazy ripoff. Now, there are a few different comparisons and mashup videos on YouTube. Actually, in my interview with Alan, I asked him about this. This is what he said.
There have been some talk on the internet out there that Need You Now by Lady Antebellum has kind of the same melody as Eye in the Sky.
It's 1:15, I'm all alone and I need you. Eye in the sky, looking at you.
You ever heard that?
No comment.
In all, the Alan Parsons Project would score 8 top 40 singles on the Hot 100, 7 top 40 albums, and garner several Grammy nominations. But there's just no question that Eye in the Sky was the commercial pinnacle of it all. which is never easy territory for bands who set out not to be commercial. Said Parsons about it, "We were manipulated into making music that was too commercial for what the project originally set out to do. It was not meant to be a commercial band at all. It was meant to be a band that went into its own direction, not into a safe area as defined by the media or a record company, which is where we were, in fact, led." Disagreements between the project and Arista led to some bitter contract disputes, but Parsons and Wolfson did manage to kick out 4 more albums in the 80s. After that, they went their separate ways. Wolfson pursued a career in musical theater, and Parsons continued to record visionary symphonic rock music. He even started performing live in concert. Actually, I saw him a few years ago. It was great.
Eye in the sky, looking at you.
Eye in the Sky, of course, missed out on the number 1 spot by 2 spots, edged out by John Mellencamp's Jack and Diane at number 2, and Man at Work with Who Can It Be Now at number 1.
Little ditty about Jack and Diane.
Pretty tough competition. That's how it was in the 80s. But you know what? So many years later, there's no doubt that Eye in the Sky, along with Sirius, we're going to put them both there, they deserve a number 1 ranking. So let's make it official and induct these tracks into the People's Hall of Fame. Place them where they belong, number 1 in our hearts. This is a song from my childhood that is always a little bit sinister. The music, the lyrics, they definitely stood out in the sea of soft rock and new wave and dance music that I heard on the radio. The Alan Parsons Project always played by their own rules, and their music was so original. It was so fantastical. Nobody could copy it, and nobody could really see through it. I really believed the lyrics, "I Can Read Your Mind." As a 6-year-old kid, I believed this song. I believed this band was an alien, an eye in the sky that could read your mind. I even had nightmares about it. One day my dad told me it was just a band, it was just a song. But even to this day, I still wonder. Thanks so much for watching. Such a sinister, creepy song in a great way. I love this song. Leave us a comment about Alan Parsons Project and Eye in the Sky and Sirius. What are your memories of this song and this album? What do you think about Alan Parsons Project, about his work? Let's have a great discussion below. If you like our content, we do invite you to subscribe. We'd love to have you as part of our community. Again, if you want to see some of our other Alan Parsons stuff, we'll link to it below. It was a great interview. It was a lot of fun to talk to him. Until next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends.